Bryan, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. My name is Bryan Mercier. I am the president of Catholic Truth. If anyone wants to know what Catholics believe, that's what we are here for. I'm a Catholic speaker, a retreat leader, and I do apologetics as well. And basically Catholic Truth is we have YouTube and podcast, and anyone from anywhere at any time is kind of our slogan, that anyone can come to know what the Catholic Church teaches and why. And even if you just have questions, about the Crusades, Inquisitions, Galileo, and many other questions, we try to just answer people's questions and help them wherever they are on their journeys.
Cool.
I don't know if you're looking for more than that, but
it's essentially whatever people want to say. When people ask me that, I usually say I'm a bathtub salesman, and that's my full intro. So it's just.
I do like video games, though. I think we talked about that before the show. I love video games.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the new Harry Potter game. It actually looks really good.
So it's interesting. I meant to ask you, and I know this is totally not at all related, but what's maybe your favorite video game, or one of your favorite video games of all time?
Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, Ninja Gaiden 2. Those are my
old school.
They're the same game. It's just one's for the Xbox, one's for the PlayStation. The Xbox ones had much better graphics. The PlayStation one had a co-op mode though, so it was fun.
Okay, cool. All right.
It's a very, very hard video game. One of the hardest. That's why I like it.
All those old ones were really hard. I don't know if you ever played like Ikari Warriors. Like some of those games are just like impossible back in the day. Like even with Nintendo and unlimited saves, they were like really hard.
Yeah. I'm more into the combo ones, the memorizing combos, learning how to use them. That's definitely my type. What about you?
Cool. I'd say my favorite game ever is possibly Skyrim. I kind of love big epic games where open world, that sort of thing. Halo would be another mention. Tomb Raider series I love. Smash Brothers, those would be among my favorites.
Yeah, actually, I really wanted to make a mod for Skyrim. I designed a computer mouse. It has a WASD key on it because I'm a PC gamer, typically, or used to be. And I love to have one mouse, like a game with two computer mice, one where you can like control the sword with one action, and the other we can control the camera and the movement with the other action. And I wanted to put that into Skyrim because Skyrim was one of the most fun games to play for like a RPG adventure for sure. And so that's what I was working on for a while. I couldn't figure out how to do it in the Skyrim API.
Interesting. Yeah, great. Yeah, I played it on what did I play it on? Xbox, I think. PlayStation. I can't remember which one I played it on.
Have you played any of the directional sword games like Cavalry or Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, where you like move the sword in a direction with your mouse, you like click to attack and then drag your sword to make the sword go in a direction?
No, I haven't actually.
Pretty cool. I like them a lot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what I'm playing right now, I'm playing Zero Dawn, right? Horizon Zero Dawn right now.
Oh yeah, the Mecha Dino one.
Yeah, it's very Skyrim-ish. I really like it so far. I mean, minus some of the animation and character look, but overall I really love the gameplay and story and stuff.
Yeah, I do. I love those. The triple exploding arrows were great. Just one shot to everything. I wasn't a fan of the difficulty though, because when you turn the difficulty up, it takes so many arrows to kill anything. It's just ridiculous. It's like it's not.
Yeah, that's why I'm playing on normal just for the fun aspect of it.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about God stuff, I think. Also a fun video game.
I'm ready. Sorry about that.
Apologetics debate, bro. Video game.
I do still play Pokemon Go for the record too. I am level 46. I love it.
Nice. I'm an atheist, by which I mean I believe that naturalism best explains everything that we can see about the universe. Could you tell me some of the reasons you believe there are for believing there is a God?
Yeah, sure. But out of curiosity, I'm curious, have you always been an atheist? Like, were you grown up atheist, or was there some point in your life where you're like, some of this doesn't make sense? Like what, I guess I always like to know where people come from themselves.
I was brought up Christian, and I lost my faith in late high school. I had major depression, and none of my prayers were answered, and so I lost the ability to believe there was an all-loving, all-powerful God. And then didn't become an atheist till many years later, and started to research philosophy. And when researching philosophy, I identified with a position and the arguments for the position, and became an atheist.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's so funny. It's funny how life works sometimes, because I had the kind of the similar thing except in reverse. So one of the reasons I do believe in God is because I would say that I feel bad saying this now, but like he changed my life. And I actually in high school was very depressed as well, very angry, bullied a lot, dressed in black, and carried weapons, wanted to hurt people and worse. Um, Very volatile. I mean, I was a really nice kid, just had a lot of anger and depression that I didn't know what to do with. So I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I just stuffed it down inside. And then my mom really didn't know what to do with me. So she was going to call the cops, send me to jail. Maybe I'll get my life together. But then she decided to send me to a Catholic college instead. I guess that was the next best option. And so I went to this Catholic college, and I didn't really want to go there. And I swore, like, I don't know if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, the beginning of the movie where the sergeant swears like every other word. That's totally like what I was like. Shocked everybody out at that pretty little Catholic college. And I don't know, over time, I guess I would say that God opened my heart, and I started to, and I always prayed. I always believed, sort of, kind of, but kind of like you, God never answered my prayers. And so I came to three options. Either number one, God's not real. He is real, but he just doesn't care. Or he is real, but he just doesn't love me. Or maybe a fourth option, he is real, but he's like a billion kilometers away. And maybe my prayers take forever to get up there and come back down. Whatever it is, he just wasn't answering my prayers. And it wasn't until I got to that college that he totally and completely changed my life inside and out 100%. And I could never have imagined it or wanted it. And even my friends were like, dude, you are so different. Like, you're so angry and volatile before. Now you're like happy and joyful and completely transformed. And I understand that this is completely subjective evidence. So, if people don't want to accept it, I totally understand that. But for me, if people ask me why I believe in God, it's because he changed my life so radically, and I've never been happier ever since. And I do understand that sometimes it takes longer for other people as well. And I don't know why he worked in my life, but that's one reason why I would believe, I wouldn't expect people to accept that, objectively. Um, and as for objective reasons, there's a lot of them. I know we don't have time, so I'll try to keep them on the shorter side. But I guess for starters, I don't personally believe that the universe, and maybe you don't either, came into existence from nothing. I do know there are scientists who do posit the idea that before the Big Bang, there was nothing, and or that everything could have come into existence from nothing. And I know,
Just to clarify, no physicist actually says that. That is not a thing. Not even Lawrence Krauss says that, even though he wants to say he says that. No one says that. That's not a thing in physics.
They're redefining the word nothing, because I even heard Stephen Hawking making this argument on TV. He was in a debate with, I can't remember if it was Oprah or somewhere else, but he was trying to say that everything came from nothing. And
No, he said there was nothing before the Big Bang. So the Big Bang is all instances of existence, but he didn't say nothing came there. He didn't say it came from nothing. The came from nothing thing is a myth. It's not a thing.
See, that's what I heard him say. Which is why the priest was calling him out on it, because the priest is like, it can't come from nothing. And he's like, no, it did come from nothing. And the priest was like, and Deepak Chopra was there too. He was getting in on it. But the priest was saying 0 plus 0 is 0. You can't get something from nothing. But as long as we're all on the same page with that, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So we're all on the same page with that. So we agree that something can't come from nothing. And I guess the other alternatives is either that it was created, which I believe there was a creator, or perhaps what most people would say is that perhaps the universe is there indefinitely, infinitely, forever. Maybe there were things before the Big Bang, perhaps an infinite series of causes that led to the Big Bang and our known universe today. But I think for me, it's more likely to believe in a creator, a cause, because number one, I guess this gets into the argument of contingency a bit, that everything in the
One
universe.
second, you skipped a few options there. So in physics,
Okay.
the eternal infinite regress is one of the options. I think that would be the first option you mentioned. It's just always been there. The second option is that there is a necessary being, but it's not a mind. So it could be like a necessary quantum field, and the quantum field created the universe. And so it has essentially the same thing. There's a quantum field that's outside of space-time, and the quantum field created our universe, which is in space-time, similar to the way God is outside of
Yeah.
space-time. I'd
I
imagine you'd say that.
Yeah, I don't think most people accept that, but I don't accept that either just because even the quantum field is material, and material is part of this universe. Everything's part of this universe is this universe, atomic or subatomic. And
No.
let me redefine universe. By universe, I mean material substance. So even if there were universes before this universe, I include that. I include all possible universes in the word universe, not just
All
ours
right.
currently.
That's like the cosmos, as Carl Sagan put
Yeah,
it. So
the
yeah,
cosmos. Yeah.
yeah. The position there would be is there could be a necessary being as a part of the cosmos, just like it's like reality. You'd say God is in reality, but God's a necessary being, right? So you'd say that there's a necessary being in the cosmos or in reality, and that would be a quantum field. And the quantum field is outside of space time, and it created our universe. So there would be something synonymous to what you would think God is, in that it's outside of space time and created the universe. It's just a quantum field and doesn't have a mind.
Well, I guess I'll come back to that at the end. I think you're just kind of trying to replace God with quantum field, but um,
Well,
I'll
one
come
has
back to that.
considerably more evidence than the other one, I think.
I disagree, but I guess that's what we're talking about today. Um, so let's talk about the argument for contingency for a second. So I don't believe that when I use the cosmos, we're looking at the universe as existence, right? The universe exists, and by that I mean cosmos. By that I mean subatomic particles. By that I mean quantum realm. I believe everything. I'm terming everything in that. And when we look at that, we say, okay, is it reasonable for this to exist? See, I don't believe that anything in the universe is the cause of itself. The universe couldn't have caused itself, number one. It can't keep itself in existence, number two. And number three, it can't cause everything else. So if it came into existence, or if it was just there, how could it cause everything else? I'll
Wait,
break
say
this
that
down
again?
into that. So I don't believe that everything in this cosmos, I don't believe the universe can cause itself. Kind of like if you look at a puddle and you say the puddle is there. Why is the puddle there? Well, I don't know. It just is, uh, or you could look around and say, oh, there's a faucet there, and the faucet is dripping in the puddle. Therefore, the faucet is causing the puddle. So the universe is the effect. The effect cannot be the cause. So the cosmos, what we're looking at. Why does anything exist? I mean, this cosmos, subatomic, regular, none of this needs to exist. It didn't have to exist. There could be nothing. There could be no existence. That's what nothing is, no existence. But there is something. So we ask the question, well, why is there something rather than nothing? And so when we look at why this exists, we don't say, well, the cosmos is the reason it exists. It's the cause of itself. I don't believe that. I don't believe something can cause itself. And I don't believe purely potential, I guess, matter, so to speak, can be the cause of itself either. But that's one of my arguments for later, which I can get into. So I believe the
Well,
puddle has a
just to
cause.
clarify,
I believe the universe has to have a cause.
so like causing itself is like circular causation, like the grandfather paradox. I created myself and then was born or something. And then there's brute facts. Brute facts are things that have no causes. A thing can potentially exist without a cause. A necessary fact or a
Like
brute
what?
necessity. Well,
Just for example.
it's just any object could be a brute fact. If a potato exists and has no cause, it would be a brute fact. So any object, if it
But
existed
a
without a
potato
cause,
does
would be a
have
brute fact.
a
What?
cause.
What?
Everything. See, that's the thing. I believe that everything in the universe has a cause, including the universe itself has to have a
Does God
cause.
have a cause?
It can't be itself. That's why I
Does,
said in the universe.
does God have
Obviously,
a
if you believe, well, God is a necessary being. Is he the uncaused cause? If God was caused, if someone made God, he wouldn't be God by
right?
definition.
Right. So the point here is that there can be things that exist with no cause, and if any object exists with no cause, it's a brute fact. That's just the
No, things.
definition. This is a philosophical. It's using the philosophical
So I'm
definition.
sorry.
So if you asked, give me an example of a brute fact, if I just list an object that doesn't have a cause, it would be a brute fact. So I just gave
Okay.
any random object. It doesn't have to be a potato. So the point here is that in philosophy, there is a thing called a brute fact, which is an object that has no cause, and it would apply to God or a potato if a potato existed in the universe with no cause. And so there's a difference between self-causation, which is circular, infinite regress, which is the eternal existing, and the necessary being, which is the foundationalism of a particular brute object that just exists. So when you say something can't cause itself, I'm guessing, are you referring to like the circular causation? It literally created itself, or are
Well,
you
kind of
referring
like a
to?
puddle can't create itself, right? A puddle has a cause. If you look at anything in the universe, like a tree or the stars, like, oxygen comes from stars, right? Stars come from helium, hydrogen, and other gases. Those things come from other things. So there's literally a chain of, I guess, things, for lack of a better word, which exist, and they all have to exist in order for others to exist. So, example, if helium didn't exist, then stars wouldn't. And if stars didn't, then oxygen wouldn't. If oxygen wouldn't, then no humans would. Like, they're all needed, but none of them are the causes of themselves, and they all depend on other causes for their existence, and none of them can keep themselves in existence by themselves.
Well, that part I didn't understand either. What do you mean keep themselves in existence?
Well, so for example, oxygen didn't make itself. It has a cause. It comes from
Right.
somewhere. Something produces it, creates it. But
Right.
that
I
thing
agree that.
itself
I
doesn't
agree with
create
that.
itself or make itself, and it has a cause too. And that thing has, so we're
Well,
all
no,
like,
the
I
part
have
you
a
said,
cause.
is there a difference between create itself? Because I agree, oxygen came from stars, collapsing particles together. So what they required stars to get oxygen. But you said keep itself in existence. That part, is that like, I don't know what that means. Like, because I could imagine like an
Yeah,
oxygen atom just existing in space indefinitely, and it doesn't need to do anything. It's just going to be there indefinitely.
like after what you're like after it was created.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm thinking of, like, I guess I think most things come into existence and go out of existence, like me. I'm here for 24 years, let's say, and then I'll go out in like 30, 4 years or so, so I'm going into even I'm looking out the window, I see trees coming into existence and out of existence. Everything comes into existence, but can't cause itself for that existence. Nothing can be the cause of itself unless it is existence itself, which makes it a necessary being. The universe, has come into being. Time, matter, space, energy all came into existence at the Big Bang. These things didn't create themselves. They had to have a cause. The cosmos as a whole has to have a cause. It can't be the cause of itself. And if we're just saying, oh, well, maybe the universe caused it, or maybe the subatomic particles, or quantum realm, which is part of the universe, maybe that caused it. I'm saying there has to be something outside of that is the cause of that. So um, I guess going back to that line of contingency, I don't believe that everything can go back in causal effect forever. And I'm not sure if you agree with that or not. But it's kind of like, if there's some, and many people do posit an infinite past. Some say, well, oh, it could go back indefinitely, an infinite amount of universes, whatever. But, if there's an infinite amount of days before today, then we'd never arrive at today. But yeah, here we are today. Or if some people, I guess, I don't know if someone else made this argument or mine, but I like to think of it as like the ticket. You go to order meat at the deli counter, and you go to take a ticket from there, and you can turn it in as soon as everyone else has turned it in, who goes before you. But if there's an infinite amount of people before you, you can never turn it in. I mean, it's kind of a paradox, a mathematical contradiction, a realistic contradiction that doesn't really make sense. And I don't believe you can go back infinitely into time. It's kind of like having, I guess, millions and gazillions of dominoes, and you set them all up and you just leave them there. And if, nobody actually pushes that first domino, nothing's going to happen. Number one, because they can't create themselves. They can't set themselves up. They're dead. And number two, you actually need someone to push them to get them started. And if there is a cause of change, there has to go back to someone who pushes that first domino. Another, I guess, example that I like to look at is like a train cars. If you look at like a long train, I used to see the ones when I was a kid, they're like 80 cars long. Now let's say, well, how does the train move? Well, the car in front of that box car pulls it. Well, how does that one move? The car in front of that one pulls it and pulls it and pulls it and pulls it and pulls it. And then you get to the engine, and well, let's say there's no engine. Well, how does anything do anything? It can't, because you have a series of causes that goes back, let's say, for infinity, but they still don't do anything. There's no causation. There's nothing that happens. There's nothing that can pull them. They have no actualizing power in themselves. And so, for me, if there's an infinite chain of boxcars, there has to be an engine to start pulling it, something that can actually move it and get everything going. Otherwise, we're just saying, well, maybe it just happened, or maybe it just goes back forever, but we don't know why or how. And we're talking about boxcars kind of making themselves, moving themselves, and being the cause of themselves without no exterior or outside causation. I have a lot more to say on that, but did you want to jump in?
Sure, yeah. So the argument that if there was an infinite past, we would never get to the present moment, that argument only applies to tensed theories of time, which tensed means that it goes in a domino kind of thing. So the present moment would have to be preceded by a different present moment, preceded by a different present moment, et cetera, et cetera. B theory of time doesn't have that. There are many different versions of time that are not tensed, in which case all time segments exist, kind of like a loaf of bread or a film reel or something. And so there is no problem with just skipping to the film reel
What do you
number.
mean a loaf of bread? I'm not, what did you mean by
Like a movie reel, like, a segment of time is like a clip in a film thingy, old film thingy that would like spin. And so
Yeah,
there's the
I remember those.
scenes. And so if there's a private, if like the light is hitting one of the frames and put the picture on the screen, you don't, even if there's infinitely many frames before that, you can still get to that moment just because you could skip to that scene. So in the B theory of time, all instances of time exist kind of like in a movie, all of the frames in a movie exist, and you can just skip to whatever scene you want. And there's no contradiction if there's an infinitely past amount of segments. It doesn't make a difference because you can just pick whatever segment you want to start from. And so if time isn't tensed, then the argument is simply false, that you can't get to the present moment, even if there's an infinite amount of past moments. And that's the consensus in physics is that time is not tensed. So the argument doesn't make any sense to say that because time is tensed and you have to go from an infinite amount of present moments to this moment, that it's impossible, because that's just not what physics thinks. That's not how physicists think time works. It's not what the evidence indicates. There's a great video by Skydive Phil. He goes through the Coulomb cosmological argument, part 1 and 2, with actual physicists, and the consensus of the work in physics on why Craig's argument for the tense theories of time and why the infinite regress and the Grim Reaper paradox and
Whose
all that.
argument?
The Coulomb cosmological argument, specifically focusing on William Lane Craig and all of his defenses of it.
Oh, William Lane Craig.
And
Yeah,
so
I've heard both sides, to be honest. I've heard people on the other side giving theirs, but I've also heard people on the theistic side debunking theirs. So I've heard both sides, and there's a lot of different theories out there on that. I don't think we can say, oh, it's just this or it's just that.
Well, we can definitely say that the consensus in physics agrees with one side way more than the other side.
Perhaps. I'm not familiar with all of the arguments on time, but I've read other people who are. And to be fair, I asked you before your show, why'd you pick me? You said, oh, someone recommended you. I was like, there's definitely people who are far more studied in this field than myself, but I am happy to be here and talking about it with you. But I have, studied both sides, and I know people who kind of debunk, I guess, some of the physics of it. And there's a lot we don't know in physics. There's a lot we don't know in the quantum realm. And there's a lot we don't know about time and space and a lot of things right now.
Sure.
So,
Well, I
but
don't think
I'm
that.
still not
think that
sold on the fact that we can just jump to any point in time we want just because it's all there. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. If, like, are we just saying, and I guess I'm just trying to understand your position more. Are you saying that everything we needed in the universe has always been here, and therefore, since everything has always been here, we can just jump to anything at any time?
I don't think so. So I'm saying that there's a time selector feature of the universe. So like there's a dial on the universe that can select the present moment. We can't do it. Like we can't literally control what the present moment is, but there's something in the universe that can control the present moment, and it's a feature of physics. And so it doesn't have to
What is
go
that
from
something?
it depends on which theory you're arguing for. The B theory, it's a specific kind of present moment thingy. I don't remember what it is. I don't like B theory. I don't follow B theory. But it's something kind of like what God, in a way, a fundamental nature of reality kind of a thing. And it's, if that does exist, then there's no contradiction with a being able to get to the present moment with an infinite series of past moments. Also, just I want to say that in tensed theories of times, there's also no logical contradiction in, so like A theory of time, there's also no logical contradiction with an infinite series of pasts. But the problem doesn't even apply to things that aren't tensed, which the vast majority aren't tensed. The vast majority of models aren't tensed. And so the argument that there's a problem with getting to the past moment because there's an infinite amount of past events, it doesn't really apply to physics very much. So like the reason it's not a valid criticism is because it's talking about concepts that are the specialty of physics. Space and time are literal physical things that exist. And if it's
Which came into
arguing,
existence,
yes, at the Big Bang, yes.
right? So
And
they themselves can't be infinite, no?
right, they have a beginning.
Right.
And the experts in that field who make novel testable predictions, who are successful at describing what those things are, say, what you're describing is completely divorced from our field. It's like, it's not, we don't, it has nothing to do with what we're working on. And so that's not really a valid criticism, because you're saying it's like an intuitive argument, saying intuitively it doesn't make sense to me like this is the case. But like if you're saying intuitively uranium particles decays don't make sense to you, well, the physicists are like, I don't care if it makes sense to you or not. That's irrelevant. In order to have that argument be a convincing defeater for the fact that there's some part of the universe, you would actually have to make progress in physics and be like, here's a novel testable prediction or something. Simply saying it doesn't make sense to you isn't really an argument that it's false.
Yeah, I guess the contrary kind of strikes me as true as well. Like, oh, just because we say there's an infinite universe doesn't mean there is. You
Absolutely.
know, just because we say that, it could be this theory or this be theory, when there are different theories that we don't know yet. And, it doesn't strike me as, oh, well, it's absolutely this. Thomas Aquinas, have you read the Summa Theologica by chance?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah. He
Thomistic
does make,
arguments, I think, they hurt my brain. Friggin' ontological arguments, prime mover arguments. The first three are all the same. The first three of his arguments are the exact same thing. All three of them.
that's what Richard Dawkins says, even though they're not really. But I think he says that in the God Delusion. And actually, props to Richard Dawkins, because he's pretty much one of the only atheists who tries to tackle that, but he only spends a page and a half trying to debunk 100 pages in the Summa. Like, he spent 100 pages explaining who God is, why, and how it has to be this way, and he's like, oh no, it's just not that. So I didn't really find Richard Dawkins is very convincing. Perhaps there's other atheists I don't know who tackle them better, but most usually avoid them. But he does make, and I don't understand it, so I'm not going to get into it, but he does have, I don't even know how to say it. He does allow for an infinite universe somehow within God to exist but again, I don't know how that works. But anyways, neither here nor there.
Oh yeah, so there's two things there I wanted to pick up on really quick. One is that you're right that simply saying that because the universe could be past infinite isn't evidence it's past infinite. Totally true. But if we have one model that is built on things that have been verified to exist independent of our imagination, and one model that adds in properties that we haven't confirmed to exist, the model that's built on things which can be confirmed to exist is a better model. So like if we see a horse print in the snow or a hoof print in the snow and we want to say what caused the hoof print, if we say a horse did it, that's reasonable because horses, we have lots of previous evidence of horses. If somebody says a unicorn did it, that's not reasonable because we have no past evidence of unicorns. And so the same thing would apply to the origin of the universe. A model that's built on things that have been confirmed to exist through scientific experiments is going to be better than one that adds in extra things, like a model that says it's only based off of background energy and observations we can make in the CMB or something is going to be better than one that adds in WIMPs, weakly interactive massive particles, because we have no evidence of those yet. And so if you add in extra properties that have no evidence, it's a worse model. And so if we take something like the multiverse hypothesis, it's a combination of two things. One is that it's the Casimir effect, 0 point, or I forget what it's called, the energy of space and fluctuations in energy in the space that can represent, or that are the result of quantum fields, has been confirmed in empirical demonstrations of the Casimir effect. And the other one is Guth's early universe inflation, which was demonstrated in observations in the CMB. If you combine those two, or the math of those two, you can get the multiverse theory. And so that theory is better than, say, God, because God adds in a whole bunch of other things kind of more synonymous with the unicorn, the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, non-physical mind. In the Thomistic version, divine aseity, perfect goodness. Goodness is
That
something
makes
being.
to me, that makes much more sense than an infinite, infinite amount of, that seems to me much more implausible, or like you're almost begging the question a million times more, whereas God is super simple and doesn't, yeah, he has a few attributes, but the quantum realm and multiverse, and granted that's only one theory, so we can't say, oh well, this makes more sense because it's not even proven yet, like you
So
might
the argument,
it's,
just clarify, the argument there I was making is that all of the parts of the multiverse theory have been demonstrated, proven to exist. So the multiverse hasn't, but all the parts have. So early universe inflation models have confirmed Guth's prediction. So that's been shown to be real, or have really good evidence to be real.
yeah, but our universe is real, but we're still getting back to the same problem of why do we have all of this in the first place? None of this can be the cause of itself.
Remember, so my argument here is that for any unknown, a model that is only built on things that we have confirmed to exist independent of our imagination is better than a model that's adding in things that we haven't confirmed to exist outside of our imagination. So like,
Yeah, but see, that doesn't make, oh, sorry, I'll let you finish.
so like hoof print in the snow, if you say it's a horse, that's rational because we have past evidence of horses. Say it's a unicorn, not rational because there's no evidence of unicorns. So in the case of the universe, using a model in physics that is built on things that we can prove exist is going to be better than if you add in things we don't have evidence for. And so it's not just an intuition at this point. This, we're saying this model is objectively better because it's only using things which we have confirmed to exist so far. And so there's no loose ends. There's no parts that are just, I imagine this to be the case, or I hope this is to be the case, or I theorize this is to be the case. These things we know exist and they can cause the phenomenon. Therefore, it's more rational to think they cause the phenomenon than to add in extra features that we don't know exist yet.
Yeah, that's probabilistic reasoning, though. That's just probabilistic causes, and probabilistic causes aren't always true, nor are they the best causes. I mean, someone might say, oh, well, it's much more reasonable to believe that, 600-pound people aren't athletes. Yeah, okay, it's more reasonable, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily true. That's just a probabilistic cause. Whereas if you're in sumo wrestling, it's very realistic that 600-pound people are athletes, or just for a dumb example off the top of my head. But this still doesn't answer the question of why do we have any of this at all? If we have a multiverse or a bouncing universe or any of the other theories that are out there, which remain unproven, okay, well, that only kicks the can back. Why do we have those things? Why do we have any of these things? These things don't explain where everything came from. The universe can't have caused itself. An infinite series of universes can't have caused itself. It's kind of like, for me, I don't know, maybe this is the argument from efficient causality. Maybe one of the Aquinas proofs you don't like, but, like when I see let's just say someone has a stick and is pushing a ball, and he's rolling it down the street. Well, okay, how does the ball move? It can't do anything of its own nature. It's purely potential. Well, okay, well, the stick moves it. Okay, well, how does the stick move it? Well, the hand moves the stick. Well, obviously, but how does the hand move? Well, the arm moves the hand, and the shoulder moves the arm, and so on. The back. Okay, well, you have this series of causes, and none of the causes can be their own cause. There has to be something outside of all of this. And when you look at, let's say, I guess this is the difference between actuality and potentiality, right? Like, let's say I have this cup here. This is my mug. Now, this mug, if I set it down on the table, it's not going to move. It can't. It's dead. It doesn't do anything by definition. Now, it has the potential to move if I move it, but it itself can't move. Now, I'm going to put it down and it's not going to move. Now, this universe in itself, the cosmos in its entirety, is potential in nature. It can't cause itself. It didn't create itself, and it can't, in a sense, do anything outside of itself without other things helping it to come into existence or to exist and stay in existence. So I guess the cosmos in itself, when you look at actuality versus potentiality, this whole universe is potential. There's no way that it can actualize itself. So that's why I personally think, I actually, if you don't mind me saying, I just want to kind of give my thought on this, because I guess when we're saying that God is not, we don't believe that God is material at all, right? He's not temporal at all. He's not part of this universe at all. So we believe that he is the uncaused cause, a being of pure actuality. Like humans, we're part actuality. Like I can do what I want, right? I can actually move, which is why I have actuality. Whereas this mug has no actuality. It's only potential. It only has the potential to move. And only if I bring it into actuality, if I actualize it and move it, then it can move. Now, I'm only part actuality. Yeah, I can do what I want because I have some actualizing agents. I can do that. But I'm also part potentiality as well, because I can't do whatever I want. If I didn't have gravity, I would be dead. If I didn't have oxygen, I would be dead. If I didn't have food, I would be dead. I actually depend on other things as well. So I'm part actual and part potential. But what we're saying about God is he's pure actuality. You know, he has no changeable aspects. And we know that if the cause is pure actuality, if God is a being of pure actuality, then there only can be one pure unactualized actualizer. If there was more than one, then each one would lack something that the other one has to distinguish them. And we know that change happens when something like this, when a potential becomes actualized, and time is how we measure change. So it follows that the cause can't be subject to time. And since matter, which is the entire cosmos, is always changing, even on the atomic and subatomic levels, and it's composed of matter, it's changing. It can't be that necessary being. The cause of the universe must be unlimited, because to limit it would entail a potential, which the thing in question could never actualize. And so if the cause is not limited in power, then it has to be all powerful. And this means that its causal power can't be limited. I only have a couple more, but then I'll let you talk. This talk, I would also say, going off this, that the cause can't go out of existence, because that would mean going from existing to non-existing, or non-existing to existing is change, and that's temporal, that's changeable, meaning it does change. But if it changes, then it's potential. And again, this is a being of pure actuality. So therefore, it has no potential for non-existence. It can't exist. It can't not exist. This universe could not exist, but by definition, the cause of the universe can't not exist. It's a necessary being. So I believe this shows that there is one unlimited, purely actual being existing beyond space and time that is timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. For me, and I guess, you know, being finite humans, it's all going to come down to, okay, it's either going to be God, who is there for eternity. He is this causeless, timeless, changeless, infinite being, or the universe that we're part of, that we're looking for an explanation for, has, in a sense, been here infinitely. Like, and neither one is, you know, you could prove in as matter of fact. You know, but I'm saying, it's, for me, it's much more reasonable to believe that there is a mind, that there's an intelligence that made this, rather than just everything was there, trillions and trillions and trillions of cosmic accidents made everything, and now we exist.
So a few things there. I mean, I understand that that's your model, but it seems like there's a lot of properties there that have no basis in reality. Oh, I forgot. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Monster. Hail Satan. I'm an atheist and I don't believe in gods or devils. We are the higher. Humanity is incredible and its ability to create. We are creators. Thank you for the super chat. So
You create the universe.
maybe in the future, but so you posited a lot of properties there, a lot of entailments of it's perfectly simple. It can't lack any properties. It's infinitely powerful, and all these things that you believe.
No, it can't lack. Sorry.
If there's two of the things, it's going to lack some property to distinguish itself,
okay,
and it's going to potentiality. So all of those things are things that you think are real properties of the universe that instantiate whatever the necessary being is. But there's no evidence for any of that.
I'm not saying they're real. I'm saying that you can't have, like, matter has a beginning, therefore it can't be the cause of itself. The universe can't be the cause of itself, so we have to have something that's immaterial outside of that, and that makes logical sense.
Well, no, it doesn't. There's no immaterial quality there. So there can be a spaceless, timeless quantum field that is a necessary being that created all other material stuff, but it's still material.
A quantum field is something. It's not. It's still something that's part of the material world.
That's not a problem. So it can still be material. There's no reason for it to not be material. Simply saying it's material doesn't mean it's contingent.
All of material being came into existence. So if it's part of the material
that's
world,
false. That's false by every definition in physics.
So
nowhere in physics does it ever say all material things came into existence.
So the matter just existed. It was just
matter and material is two different things there. So quantum matter is like a certain form of energy. Quantum fields are not matter, but they are material. They are a thing.
Part of that. That's part of matter. Energies, material, all of it's part of that.
Yes, it's all material, but it's not matter. So matter is one form. So quantum fields are material, but they are not matter. Matter is in time, material is not. So quantum fields are outside of space and time. So I agree with you on that one, but they're still material. So why would they need to not be material?
I guess maybe we're just defining them differently. How are you defining it again? What are you saying? Maybe you could just re-say it.
Re-say what? Which part?
I don't want to say everything, but can you just re-say what you just said?
So I'm a physicalist, so naturalist, materialist. So I think everything is made of matter and energy of some kind. But matter is only one kind of this fundamental essence. And the fundamental essence, there's only one fundamental essence, and it's quantum fields. They are the most basal thing in the universe. They are still material, but they are outside of space-time. And so there's no contradiction with a thing outside of space-time creating all things in space-time, like our universe. So it would be, there's no
quantum realm is part of our universe. I mean, it's part of the cosmos in general.
Yes, reality. So to try and explain this, God is a part.
Separate them.
No, well, so God is a part of reality, isn't he?
Yes, but he's not part of the cosmos. We're trying to explain why the cosmos exists.
Right. So just like you think God is a part,
quantum realm is part of the cosmos. It's part of all of this.
So cosmos,
it's smaller, but it's part of it.
Cosmos in our language is the exact same as reality in your language.
Cosmos in your language is the same thing as reality in our language.
Yeah, so just like God is a part of reality, the quantum field is a part of the cosmos. It's also a part of reality. They both exist in reality.
I'm part of reality, but that doesn't mean I created myself. Right. That doesn't. I need a exist. I still need proof for why I exist outside of created reality. I see it.
Everything exists in reality. That's what existence means. But the point here is simply saying if you're saying it exists in the cosmos does not mean it must have an explanation. It can exist in the cosmos and be necessary, just like a God can exist in reality and be necessary. So the fact that it exists in the cosmos doesn't mean it's not necessary.
So yeah, I guess that's where we would disagree on that, because I do believe everything in the cosmos is. God is not in the cosmos. Well, again, maybe we're using different definitions, but God's outside of the cosmos. But I don't believe that anything in the cosmos is necessary. We don't have to have
Well, that would be like me saying
a physical realm. We don't have to have any of these realms. Nothing needs to exist.
That would be like me saying I don't believe anything in reality is necessary. Like you would just like that doesn't compute. Simply saying that you believe everything in reality isn't necessary doesn't mean anything. It's just an assertion based on nothing. So there's no argument for why the cosmos, which is reality, all of reality, can't have a necessary being in it. Like, why would all of reality not be able to have a necessary being in it?
Because the necessary being, well, would this, sorry, I guess I'm just trying to put these terms together. In reality, reality is the way you're using that is everything in reality exists, right?
Everything that exists is reality. Yes.
It's real, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I would agree with that. But that doesn't mean that our cosmos, which is real, made itself. And we're trying to find the cause for that. So the cause of the universe can't be itself. The cause of the cosmos can't be itself.
Wait, so again, so stop
There's
using
cause
cosmos.
because
cosmos equals reality. So anytime you use cosmos, it means the exact same thing as reality. If God exists, he exists in the cosmos.
No.
The cosmos is everything that is, everything that was, and everything that will be. If God exists, he's in the cosmos.
But
cosmos is everything.
Let's just say that God, just for sake of argument for a second, just for my example, let's just say that God made everything from nothing. Let's just say that means that not everything, that at one time this whole cosmos, this whole universe, for a different word, didn't exist, right?
Well, no, because cosmos means everything that was, everything that is, everything that will be. So cosmos would include God. It's literally synonymous with reality. Cosmos is a synonym with reality.
So God would have existed for all eternity, correct? But what I'm saying is that the universe was not at one point.
Right.
So therefore, it didn't have to exist.
Right. So I agree. We agree on that part. The universe is a contingent thing within the cosmos. The cosmos is necessary. There has to be a necessary being there. And
right.
Well, if we agree,
the universe exists within the cosmos.
Yep.
But you're using cosmos as reality. I'm using cosmos as like all the possible universes. Period.
Well, no. So cosmos literally means reality. They are synonyms. So if God exists, he's in the cosmos. If God exists, he's in reality. Reality and cosmos are exactly the same word here.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same page with definition wise, because I don't want to be arguing something that you're not saying or I'm not saying.
Right. So Carl Sagan said cosmos is everything that was, everything that is, everything that will be. I'm trying to do a Carl Sagan impression.
Okay. So if we go by that, then let's just use the word universes. Like all of these universes, including our own, do not need to exist. They don't. And so we're trying to figure out why they exist. And we can't say, oh, well, because, of other universes or other, subatomic universes or anything that's part of these universes can't be the cause of the universe. It has to be something outside of that. That's why there only can be one necessary being that is timeless, spaceless, and not made up of matter, time, space, energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. It's the quantum field. The quantum field makes all this stuff.
Which has time, space, matter, all of that.
No, it's not. It's timeless and spaceless.
Sorry. I meant like energy and like even like some people say, well, we see particles coming into and out of existence in the quantum vacuum, right? But even a quantum vacuum is something. It's not a nothing. It has low levels of fluctuating energy. Like it's not nothing.
Right. I don't think it's logically impossible for things to come from nothing.
Well, I agree. I agree. But that's what people tell me all the time. And maybe they're people who just don't know what they're talking about, but I hear this argument a lot.
So again, I'm trying to understand why.
I've even heard scientists make these arguments about the quantum field and, particles coming into existence from nothing. Like I hear this, like this isn't just me. Like as I was saying, that's why that whole argument broke out between Father Spitzer and Stephen Hawking. And he was trying to explain that 0 + 0 is 0. If you literally have 0, plus 0. You can't get 1 or 2 or 3. It's 0. You know, you can't redefine nothing.
Well, again, so it's a conflation between technical terms in physics that people who don't study physics understand, and so it's just a waste of time conversation unless you actually want to go into the definition of physics and how they use technical terms, which just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the argument here is that why do you think a quantum field or a quantum particle of some kind can't be the necessary being? It doesn't matter. Like it's saying it's made of energy is the same thing of saying God exists in reality. So God exists in reality. We exist in reality. We're both made of the same thing, real stuff. So there's a similarity between God and us in that we're both made of real stuff.
Yeah, of
Real
course,
realness.
real stuff. But that doesn't mean that energy can create and make everything that we know today. It doesn't have that causal power. It's not possible.
Wait, well, why do you
Well,
think
for
that?
one,
There doesn't seem to be any evidence of that.
well, just for example, like, you just broke in there and I had a train of thought and I just lost it. Sorry, can you back up for a minute? What were we just talking about? I just totally just blanked out on what I was about to say.
So I asked you, why can't the quantum field be the necessary being? God is made of real stuff. We're made of real stuff.
God's
Quantum
not
fields
made. God is reality, but it's not made of real stuff. I mean, what do you mean by real stuff? He's not stuff.
It
He's not
exists.
an object.
I'm not saying he's composed of parts. I'm saying he exists, and if he exists, he's made of real stuff because he's
Right. He's
real
a
reality.
being of actuality, which energy can't be because energy is always moving, changing, that sort of thing. And it's, same thing with matter, same thing with anything in this universe. It's all moving, it's all changing. Therefore, it has potentials, which means it can't be infinitely the causal power, the pure actuality that made everything else.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
begging the
kind of like
question.
if you have a book, what?
Well, so like, assuming that is you seem to be assuming that is a criterion required in order for this to be a necessary being. That doesn't seem to. There's no evidence of this. Why? Whether or not it can change doesn't seem to be a requirement for it to be a necessary being. That seems to be something that Aquinas has made up, essentially. Like I could say the necessary being must be a pineapple. No, that's not true. It's just I just made it up. And so what evidence is there that it must be unchanging? Because I don't think it does. There's no reason to think that.
Well, as I was saying, that change, anything that changes, like for example, a butterfly coming from a cocoon, that's something going from one thing to another, where it wasn't that thing, it became that one thing. So that's why change happens when one potential becomes actualized, or when something happens that it can't do itself. Now I guess we're assuming from opposite sides. You're just assuming that energy can be there forever. You're just assuming that it could, or quantum fields could be there forever without any really evidence of that. I mean, there still has to.
First law of thermodynamics is pretty good evidence. I like that one.
What about the second law of thermodynamics?
Doesn't invalidate the first.
But it
So
does.
there's a reason the first one's first and the second one's second, because the first one.
That's irrelevant.
No, it's literally not. There's four laws. There's four laws of thermodynamics. One
Yes,
is zero.
but
The reason they added it as zero is because it's more fundamental.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that the second one is false. It doesn't mean that it's not true.
None of them are false. Like that would be contradictory. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's the first law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is,
first of all, I don't know if people are free to disagree with me, and I know everyone agrees with that. We don't know that for sure. Yes, at this time right now, it can't be created or destroyed. We have no idea if it can be in the future. We've said a lot of things can't be created or destroyed, and then we'd figured out, wait, we also said that two snowflakes are never the same. And I said, that's ridiculous. We haven't studied all the snowflakes. They could find two snowflakes in the future. And
we've already done that.
About 10 years ago, they did. But the point is, like, there's even like the priest who married me, he's super incredibly smart scientist. He has a PhD, #1 in his class from Princeton, in quantum mechanics, quantum physics.
Just to clarify, are you married to a priest, or are you married to someone and the priest married you to that other someone?
I said the priest married. Yeah, you're right. No, he married my wife and I, but he's a quantum physicist, and he said, I forget, I just blanked out again, but he's also saying that the quantum field is part of this universe, and therefore coming back to it, this universe has to have a cause. I guess that's what I keep coming back to. The universe can't be the cause of itself. Even the quantum subatomic, levels, which are part of the universe, universal being, they can't be the cause of the universe. And just saying that, well, why can't they just be the necessary cause? That doesn't actually prove that they are the cause. That's just a probabilistic cause of which you need to present, more evidence for, not just say, well, it just seems like it because we can see it. Just because
wait, I just want to clarify. I totally agree with what you said there, but the difference here is that one model has evidence. If one model is making novel testable predictions saying that if my model is true, here's some experiment we can do in a lab to confirm these features, and we do the experiment and confirm it, that's evidence for their model that doesn't exist for the other models. And so if the model for the multiverse and all the different versions of physics are making these testable predictions and making progress in knowledge we don't have, their model is confirmed by things in reality. Whereas a different model that says the necessary being can't be composed of parts, it must be necessary, goodness and being are synonymous. If there's possibility for two things, one must be lacking the property the other has, blah, blah, blah. None of that
all
stuff.
of that makes complete sense if you understand
the make sense part doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what makes sense. What matters is which one
No,
is
it does
making
make
novel
sense.
predictions.
Because
If
then
one,
that makes the other ones impossible, because you can't have ones that contradict those things, and that has to have these things. And this is what we've observed since time immemorial. Like, you can't have two beings of pure actuality. It's literally impossible.
again, so if there's two different qualities of evidence here, one is what makes sense. You're saying what makes sense is a good piece of evidence, and I'm saying what makes novel testable predictions, that's good evidence. And so in science, we don't go based off what makes sense. Even if things don't make sense, quantum duality, entanglement, things may not make sense, and we're just like, well, that's reality. And so
Not really, because they could make sense in the future. We just say we don't understand them right now. Like,
right. So just to clarify, if reality does something that we don't understand, that we can't understand, we are wrong. Our ability to make sense of it doesn't matter to reality. Reality doesn't care if we can make sense of it now or in the future.
Well, I agree. Reality, what is true, whether we understand it or
Right.
not. I don't always understand, the fullness of. Nobody understands the fullness of the quantum physics and quantum realm, but that doesn't mean it's not true what's happening there. And even if we don't understand how it happens, it doesn't mean that we know it's true. We know it happens.
That's not. So the argument here is that what makes sense is superseded by empirical data. Empirical data is better than what makes sense. And so if we have a model of physics that's saying
probabilistic cause, which I disagree with. It's like saying, oh, well, I'm saying there's a green and red truck outside because I saw it. And you're like, no, it's much more likely that there's a white truck outside because we see white trucks. I shouldn't say I saw it, but let's just say, like, I have good evidence there's a red and green truck outside. You're like, no, there's lots of white trucks outside, because it's more likely that there's a white truck outside, which might be true. But that doesn't mean that there's a red and green. See, I don't see it as follows, just because I think your argument is we can see this, therefore it's true, which I agree, it is true. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So my argument is that
we can see the arguments that are, we can see, arguments that make gravity, and we can see why stars make oxygen. We can observe these things happening through scientific means. And therefore, you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's more reasonable to believe and to go by science and just go by the naturalistic causes rather than a supernaturalistic cause.
No, I'm saying that, like, supernatural causes are fine. I'm saying that any model that can predict the future and get it right is more rational to believe than one that can't do that. So I don't care if it's natural or supernatural, it doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. If there's a model that can use the things we see now, infer what the future is going to look like, and like an experiment we can do to test to confirm the hypothesis, do an experiment, confirm the hypothesis, that model is now better than every other model that can't. And so positing something like...
But that's all flawed from the beginning, because you're basing it on the fact that science can prove or disprove God, which is impossible, because by definition, science is, theory, and it's, observing this world. It can go by things that can be observed, tested through repeated experiment and that sort of thing, whereas God is outside of that and can't be tested or put under a microscope or that sort of thing. So, I mean, even scientists can't... I think it was Paul Draper. Paul Draper says he defines naturalism as physical preceding the mental. And he says supernaturalism is the mental preceding the physical. And he said naturalism and supernaturalism are equally probable intrinsically because they are equally modest and coherent. So I guess it comes down to both of us are proposing a necessary being. I believe it's, I guess, pure actuality, a being, a mind, eternal, all powerful, and has the power to create the universe. And you're saying that it's perhaps just the quantum realm, which begs the question itself.
Well, no, again, it's not begging the question. So inductive arguments are the opposite of begging the question. Those are begging the question is more like a deductive argument. That would be begging the question. But but I'm not quite following what you said there. So my argument is that you can make a theory whatever way you want. Natural, supernatural, don't care, whatever. You can use a magic 8-ball to make a theory. But what makes a theory better than any other theory is its ability to tell you things about reality you didn't know yet. And predict the future.
But that's saying the only way to know about reality is by what you see.
Well, no, that you can know about reality in whatever way you want to propose it. That's fine too. Just we know that empirical data works as a way to know about reality, and so if you want to say this will tell us what our future,
it's correct about all of reality.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the argument. You don't need to be 100%. So the only thing, if you are able to make an accurate prediction about the future, knowledge you don't have yet, that model, whichever can do that, is better than all of the others. It doesn't mean it's 100% right. It's probabilistic, like you said, but it's probabilistically better than any model that can't predict the future, because our imagination is very bad at predicting the future. We can imagine lots of things. There's infinitely many things we can imagine. And to try to filter out which ones are just the things we've made up in our head and which ones actually correspond to reality, we need some method to do that. And the method to do that is it needs to tell us something about reality that we don't know yet. And if it can, in whatever way, divine revelation would be perfectly fine here. So like if we looked at the Bible and said that half of the population is going to disappear and be raptured, and that happens, that would be great evidence for Christianity. So it predicted the future.
That was Thanos.
That would also be great evidence for Thanos. Great evidence for Thanos. But so any model, natural or supernatural, that can predict things about the future we don't know yet and get it right is better than a model that can't do that. And in physics, we do that very, very well.
Oh, sort of. I mean, we're always changing what we think is right one day, and it becomes not right the next day. And even 5,000 years from now, oops, it wasn't correct, and so we have to change that. So what we think is right now might not be right in the future. And it still does not mean that there's no God, which I think you.
So my argument here isn't that specifically we've disproved God. My argument here is, what is the most rational thing to believe? The most rational thing to believe is the one that's making progress and testable predictions. And because it's more
only for stuff that you can see and test. That's only things for this universe. You can't test anything outside of this universe.
Well, we can actually, but that's a different topic. Different topic. But my argument here is that
by universe, I mean all of created universes.
So different topic. But if any hypothesis, any theory that makes predictions, like if I say there is a magical guy named Bob outside of the universe, and Bob will give me a gold brick if I pray to him, a gold brick appears, that's evidence of Bob. I now have evidence of a supernatural being. So you can test things at any scope, at any level, in any dimension, doesn't make a difference. Just make novel testable predictions. And so any model that can make novel testable predictions and get them right is better because it can predict the future. Our imagination is bad at predicting the future. And so if you have a model that all you have is your imagination, no predictions, no future stuff, and I have a model that has accurately predicted the future, that model is objectively better. This one is 100% better.
Kind of creating a fallacy, but I agree with what you're saying. I just looked at the time. It's 12:06. I have to go, but I have so much more to say.
All right. Definitely happy to have you back on. It was great having you to hear. Do you want to give any links or references for people to find you?
Yeah, sorry about that. I just have to go get the babysitter and my wife and all that. First of all, thank you for having me on. I always enjoy talking to you. I've watched some of your shows. I enjoy watching and listening to you. So thank you for having me on. So I would just say that if people want to check out if people are interested in Catholicism or what Catholics believe or what I have to say, you can check out our website at thecatholictruth.org, or you can check out our YouTube at Catholic Truth, our podcast, Catholic Truth, and social media, TikTok, Instagram, The Catholic Truth, or any of that, just hashtag Catholic Truth. Again, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Talk to you later. All right, if you do you have time to answer the super chat? Do you think philosophers from the 1200s had a better grasp on reality than modern scientists and physicists?
What do you mean by reality? If you're talking scientifically, no. If you're talking philosophically, possibly. I don't subscribe just to the notion that just because they're older, they're dumber. Do I believe we've advanced way more now? Yeah. Do I believe that science has disproven aspects of things that religions once held? Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I think science has a part in this, a big part in this, because I think it can uproot superstition and things that aren't true. Like if we just say, oh, well, how did the world get here? It must be God. That's not a good answer, and I do think we should look for rational causes. Now, I do believe that ultimately some arguments from the 1200s, like those of Thomas Aquinas, I still think they do hold up, and I don't think they've been disproven sufficiently. But do I believe we've advanced in many ways and have corrected some things of the past? Yeah, I believe that too.
Cool. Thanks. Really appreciate it. And I'll let you get going to the babysitter and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, man. God bless. Take care.